The street always felt quiet in Maplewood Estates, the kind of neighborhood where everyone mowed their lawns on Saturdays and waved from their porches. But that peace shattered the day 3 men in fake HOA uniforms showed up at my grandpa's house. They claimed that they were there to inspect his fence for violations. 10 minutes later, my 72-year-old grandpa was lying on the porch with his arm twisted and broken. Welcome to Silent Divide Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe because you don't want to miss tomorrow's story. The men didn't wear real badges, just shiny knockoffs, pinned to cheap polo shirts. Grandpa had tried to tell them to get off his property, but one of them shoved him when he reached for his phone. My mom found him an hour later, barely conscious, his arm bent in a way that made her scream. The sheriff's department said they'd look into it, but days passed and no arrests were made. My cousins, all members of a local biker club called the Iron Vultures, didn't take that well. They rolled into Maplewood that same evening, engines growling, fury in their eyes. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. By nightfall, the calm little street looked like something out of a movie. My cousins parked their Harleys in a perfect line in front of Grandpa's yard, the sound of their engines echoing off every house. The porch light flickered as they stood in silence, staring at the broken railing where Grandpa had fallen. One of them, Duke, the oldest and meanest of the bunch, ran his hand over the splintered wood and said quietly, "They laid hands on the wrong man." The next morning, they split up. Duke and Ray went to the HOA office pretending to ask about neighborhood permits, while the youngest, Kyle, checked the local pawn shop for anyone who might have sold fake badges or uniforms. They didn't trust the police anymore, not after seeing how lazy the investigation was. By noon, Duke called me, voice tight. "We got something. The guys weren't HOA at all. They were muscle for some scammer trying to force Grandpa to sell his property cheap." He paused before adding, "We're paying them a visit tonight." That evening, the Iron Vultures gathered again, this time not for talk, but for action. The air smelled of gasoline and revenge. The night was thick with humidity, the kind that made the air feel heavy on your skin. The Iron Vultures rode out in a tight formation, headlights cutting through the dark country road. I followed in my truck, heart pounding, unsure if I should even be part of what was about to happen. We reached a rundown rental house on the outskirts of town, the same address Duke had traced the fake HOA truck to. The place looked quiet, too quiet. Duke motioned for the engines to cut. The silence afterward felt louder than the roar that came before it. Kyle crept around back, flashlight off, while Ray kicked at a pile of beer cans by the porch. That's when we heard a faint shuffle inside, then the sound of someone locking a door. Duke whispered. "They're in there." He pushed the front door and swung open with a groan. Inside, 3 men froze mid-conversation. One still wore the same fake HOA shirt from the day Grandpa was attacked. Duke's voice came out low and cold. "You boys remember an old man with a gray fence?" The room tensed, nobody moved, but everything was about to explode. For a long second, no one said a word. The only sound was the slow creak of the ceiling fan spinning above the men's heads. Then one of them reached for something behind the couch, maybe a phone, maybe worse. Before he could pull it out, Ray kicked the table over, sending empty beer bottles shattering across the floor. "Don't!" Duke barked, stepping forward. His boots crunched on broken glass. The biggest of the fake cops, a bald guy with a scar on his cheek, smirked. "You gonna call the real police?" he said. "They ain't coming for you." Duke's jaw tightened. "Didn't plan on it." In a flash, Kyle came in through the back door, grabbing the smirking man by the collar and slamming him against the wall. The other 2 tried to run, but the Vultures blocked every exit. One of them tripped over the couch, hitting the floor hard. I stood by the doorway, hands shaking, watching the chaos unfold. I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about pride, fear, and protecting family. Duke looked down at the man pinned to the wall and said, "You hurt my grandpa. Now you're going to tell me who sent you." The man swallowed hard, but said nothing. The bald man's defiance didn't last long. Duke slammed his fist into the wall inches from his head, and dust rained down from the ceiling. "I'll ask one more time," Duke growled. The man's eyes darted toward the others, then he broke. "It was Raymond Dillard," he blurted out. "He runs the HOA scam. He wanted the property cheap for development. We were just supposed to scare the old man, not break him." The room went dead quiet. Dillard was a name everyone in town knew, a slick businessman who threw charity events by day and bullied homeowners by night. Duke turned to us. "We're not done." Minutes later, we were back on the road, engines roaring through the night. The Iron Vultures weren't the kind of men who let threats slide. We reached Dillard's mansion just before dawn. The place was wrapped in iron gates, cameras blinking red. But the Vultures didn't slow down. They rode straight through the front lawn, tires tearing up the grass. Dillard came running out in his robe, shouting. The bikers surrounded him, headlights blazing, engines revving like thunder. Duke got off his bike and walked right up to him. "You remember an old man on Maplewood?" he asked. Dillard stammered. I didn't mean for it to go that far." Duke leaned closer. "You broke his arm. Now we're going to break your silence." He dropped a folder full of photos, evidence of every scam, every fake fine, every family he'd cheated. The sheriff's cruiser lights appeared down the road, red and blue flickering through the trees. Duke didn't run. He just stared Dillard down until the cops arrived. That morning, the news spread fast. Raymond Dillard, head of Maplewood HOA, arrested for fraud, assault, and impersonation. Grandpa was still in the hospital, but when he saw the headline, he smiled for the first time in days. Sometimes justice doesn't come from a badge. Sometimes it rides in on 2 wheels and leather jackets. The end. Please like and subscribe for more rich stories like this. Comment below what city or country you're watching from. We'd love to know where our viewers are tuning in from.